How's it going, IO? Bridget Shields here, and in this video we're going to talk about why Greta Thunberg was detained by police, how Kim Kardashian has ruined another dress, and a major update on Jeremy Renner. So what happened to Greta Thunberg? The climate campaigner was detained alongside a group of activists yesterday in the funniest way possible. She traveled to West Germany to protest against the expansion of a mine, which would mean the demolition of a coal village, which of course sounds like something that should at least be questioned. The 20-year-old was joined by loads of other activists at the site, 15,000 people to be exact. So this wasn't some small protest. Greta addressed around 6,000 protesters who marched towards the village on Saturday, saying that Germany is one of the biggest polluters in the world and needs to be held accountable. She also called the expansion of the mine a betrayal of present and future generations. They really seemed to have strength in numbers before the riot police showed up, with bulldozers of course. They forcibly removed these activists from everywhere they could, abandoned buildings, trees, and even an underground tunnel. But many people stood their ground and staged a sit-in over the weekend, right up until Tuesday. One of them was Greta. Eventually she was detained and carried away by 3 policemen. That video has since gone viral on Twitter, and fans have been celebrating the moment that she was taken away. A photo of her being carried has already achieved meme status, as a lot of people pointed to the fact that she seems to be way too comfortable with the whole situation. Then a second video came out of her arrest, which showed Greta standing next to the German police and laughing with them. One of the members of the riot squad was still holding her arm, but in a more relaxed fashion, almost as if they were awaiting orders of where to take her. But Twitter skeptics jumped in on this video as an example that she orchestrated the entire arrest for publicity and claimed the whole thing was fake and all set up for the cameras. One user wrote, "That's not an arrest, that's a PR opportunity to get headlines around the world." And another person added, "Greta Thunberg faking her arrest is the perfect illustration of the fake outrage of climate change." Others compared the video to a People magazine photo shoot. But then again, there were some who applied reasoning to the situation and wrote, "So you don't know what an arrest after a protest looks like. While dealing with other stuff, cops may have to wait before taking an arrested person in charge. Meanwhile, it's frequent that journalists take photos." Another user tweeted, "Not every country's arrests are American-style beatdowns." So obviously people were confused by the idea that Greta would be casually chatting with the riot squad. According to eyewitnesses, she was seen sitting alone in a large police bus after having been detained. A policeman then said to the group, "We are going to use force to bring you to the identity check, so please cooperate." Greta was said to be a part of a group of activists who rushed towards the edge of the mine before they were stopped and carried away from the immediate danger. Apparently one of the activists did actually manage to jump into the mine though. The Swedish climate activist has always responded swiftly to celebrity critics, and now some social media users believe that she may have helped to enable the arrest of a certain controversial YouTuber after the two of them were feuding online. The British-American influencer, who gained notoriety for his violently misogynistic comments, ended up targeting Greta in December with a post on Twitter saying that he had 33 cars with enormous emissions. In response, she told him to get a life. Then the 36-year-old hit back with a video where he asked someone to bring him pizza and to make sure the boxes were not recycled, which was obviously intended to upset Greta. Soon afterwards, he was arrested in Romania on multiple charges, one of them being for forming an organized crime group. There was some speculation that the Romanian pizza brand that he accidentally featured in the video helped police confirm his presence in the country. Many thought it was hilarious that a pizza was the reason he gave up his location. Then Greta rubbed it in his face by tweeting, "This is what happens when you don't recycle your pizza boxes," which is probably going to be the best comeback of 2023. Next up, Kim Kardashian has ruined yet another dress and fans are furious. For the 2020 Vanity Fair Oscars party, the reality star hunted down one of the most significant designs in recent times, an Alexander McQueen Oyster dress that was created for the designer's Spring-Summer 2003 collection. Her dress is only one of 2 that were ever produced, and if you can believe it, the other one is sitting in the Metropolitan Museum of Art. And in classic Kim fashion, she seemed to think that was all the more reason for her to fundamentally alter the only other available one. The Oyster dress was described as arguably the most important dress of the 21st century and has been labeled by the museum as a poetic rendering of a disaster at sea. The hem of the skirt is supposed to resemble the wavy lip of a giant mollusk, further emphasizing the seashell quality of the gown. The dress not only has historical significance, but it was also very well received when Kim wore it on the red carpet. In fact, she eventually revealed that it was a Christmas gift from her husband at the time, Kanye West, now her ex-husband. But it wasn't until yesterday that fans found out the extent of the alteration alterations that she made to the iconic dress. A Twitter user by the name of Sarah McGonigal started the outrage online when she tweeted, finding out that Kim Kardashian not only destroyed Marilyn Monroe's gown, the most important dress of the 20th century, but also permanently altered one of the only 2 oyster gowns that McQueen ever made. The most important dress of the 21st century is my villain origin story. Immediately, the comments were flooded with people agreeing with her. Sarah followed that up with another harsh tweet saying she will pay for her crimes against fashion. When she started receiving a bit of criticism on her post, she wrote, "I promise that it does not make you cool to act like this doesn't matter, as if the oyster gown isn't a living masterpiece sculpted by the skillful hands of inarguably one of the most brilliantly talented artists to ever live, just because you don't view the medium as real art." From that moment, the online discourse surrounding the dress escalated, as many people argued that Kim and Kanye bought the dress instead of renting it out. Therefore, they are within their rights to alter it as much as they like. But the majority of people seem to agree with Sarah, and they even pointed to the Marilyn Monroe dress that she allegedly ruined as further evidence. The reality star wore the iconic dress to the 2022 Met Gala. Fans were beyond outraged when it was revealed that the garment suffered permanent damage after it was worn by Kim. So how do we know this? Well, Scott Fortner, a collector who assists in authenticating Marilyn Monroe memorabilia, shared photos of the dress in a blog post after Kim returned it, which appeared to show stretched fabric and missing crystals on the back. Not only that, but while being interviewed on the red carpet, she said that when she first tried the dress on, it didn't even fit her. So to ensure that the delicate fabric wouldn't tear, she dropped 16 pounds ahead of the event in order to squeeze into it. Then she changed into a replica once she got into the entrance of the party, because she couldn't even walk up the museum steps of the Met Gala without ripping the original. But the fact that she was even allowed to wear it was enough to anger fans everywhere. Marilyn's famous dress was worn when she sang "Happy Birthday, Mr. President" to John F. Kennedy in 1962. So yes, it was a big deal. It was bought by the Ripley's Believe It or Not Museum in a 2016 auction for $4.8 million, and it's usually kept in a darkened, temperature-controlled vault at 40 to 50% humidity in order to preserve the delicate fabric. I mean, even the way it was created is insane. The French designer Jean-Louis made the iconic dress by dyeing the fabric a nude color to perfectly match Marilyn Monroe's skin tone. The idea was to come as close as possible to the illusion of nudity. He also created the dress by sewing it straight onto her body while she was naked, which is why to this day we can still see what her exact proportions looked like. So of course people were fuming that Kim permanently damaged the dress, especially because when you consider the design of it, the fabric is quite literally irreparable. So no wonder there has been a growing movement of people calling for historic garments not to be worn at all. And now we need to talk about what's going on with Jeremy Renner, because there's been some new information released about the extent of his injuries. At the time, his representative said that he had suffered blunt chest trauma and orthopedic injuries, and they said that he was in a critical but stable condition after surgery. However, the actor's friends have now spoken out about the horrific accident and revealed that his injuries are actually much worse than people thought. They're claiming that he nearly bled out and almost died while he was waiting for help to arrive. An inside source spoke to Radar Online and said, "It's much worse than anyone knows. Jeremy is very aware of the fact that he almost died out there. The right side of his chest was crushed and his upper torso had collapsed. He also had a bad head wound that was bleeding and a leg injury." They went on to say that he was in a lot of pain and was having difficulty breathing, and that he knew he was in bad shape and he might not make it out of this. The source also added, quote, "The damage to Jeremy's chest was so substantial it had to be reconstructed in surgery. So far he's had 2 surgeries and he will likely require more in the weeks ahead on his leg. Doctors tend to space out operations to allow time for the body's natural healing process to kick in, and that's the case here," which sounds absolutely horrible. But we know that his family members have been by his side since the accident. His sister Kim spoke out about his healing process and said, "Jeremy's doing okay. He's pretty doped up and he's got tubes in him to help him breathe, but he's a fighter and he's determined to get through this." The actor is said to be aware of the extent of his injuries and has a long road to recovery ahead of him, with friends saying that it could even take 2 years before he's back in fighting shape. So how did this happen? Well, Jeremy was working near his home on Mount Rose Highway, which is around 25 minutes from downtown Reno. At some point, he got out of his snowplow to help someone in a stranded car when he was run over by his own vehicle. TMZ reported the plow ran over one of his legs and other parts of his body, causing him to lose a lot of blood. Thankfully, one of his neighbors, who was also a doctor, was nearby and was able to apply a tourniquet on his leg until paramedics arrived. To make matters worse, there was a storm going on at the time, and so first responders were initially concerned that weather conditions conditions were going to make it difficult to access the scene. The 911 call log obtained by TMZ stated that Jeremy could be heard moaning in the background. He was said to be experiencing heavy bleeding as a result of being completely crushed by the heavy machinery. When the neighbor spoke to the dispatcher, they said, "We just need someone here right away with life-saving techniques. He got crushed underneath it. There is a lot of blood over here, so you need to get someone over here immediately. He got crushed up on his right side, his right chest and upper torso. His ribs look like they might be crushed." Jeremy was then loaded onto a medical helicopter and flown to the ICU, where he underwent 2 surgeries to address his injuries. His publicist then spoke to CNN and said, "His injuries are extensive. As of now, we can confirm Jeremy is in critical but stable condition, with injuries suffered after experiencing a weather-related accident while plowing his snow earlier today. His family is with him and he is receiving excellent care." Although Jeremy was the only person involved in the accident, apparently the machine had extensive safety features and should not have even rolled over him, which is why the area was initially being treated like an active crime scene. News of the horrific accident sent shockwaves through Hollywood. After 2 weeks in hospital, the good news is that Jeremy is now back home where he's able to see his family. Hopefully he is now able to properly rest and recover as much as possible. Well, that's all the news that we have for today. Please let me know what you think in the comments below, and I'll catch you in the next video.